I don't think law at the end of the day is going to represent the answer, because a lot of these people I would describe as being, sort of deranged and obsessed people who the law to them doesn't really matter. I mean, the fact that, like last night, that somebody would try to burn a mosque is, like, to me, such an act of, treachery and so on, that those people don't pay attention to what the law says. So I think what we have to do, and I had a meeting yesterday in the wake of these events, the anti-Semitic and the anti-Muslim events. I had a meeting of all the different faith leaders from every faith you could possibly imagine. I mean, when I say every one, there was like 40 people in the room, so there were 40 faiths represented. I'm sure there are others. But we had 40 or 20, 35 faith leaders in the room. And what they focused on was a couple of things, I would say, coming out of that meeting, and we're now going to take the list away. They focused on education. And I know it sounds like something we'd say, well, education, we always hear that and people will roll their eyes. We simply have to have people understand more about each other's faiths, understand that the strength of Toronto is represented by the fact that people have come here from different faith groups that oftentimes didn't get along at all in other places where they might have come from, but have been able to coexist here on the basis that we made an effort to understand each other and to understand we're all in this together. And if we could have people learn about each other's faiths, and they told me some interesting stories yesterday about programs where people have gone to visit, a group of Jewish leaders will go to a mosque and they'll talk to each other about their respective faiths. And what you figure out, by the way, because when you're in a job like mine, I've been to every kind of religious institution you could name, at religious place, and seen every kind of service, and you come to realize, of course, that pretty well all of them are based on the same core set of values about how you treat each other and things you don't do and things you do, and how you look after each other and so forth. They really are. I mean, the Koran and the Bible and the Torah and so on, if you look at those, they contain many of the same fundamental underlying values. And I think the more we understand that, the more we realize what an artificial division it is between people who are Muslim and Jewish and Christian and Buddhist and all the rest. So education was something they named, and then secondly they said we've got to keep demonstrating in the city every day the fact that we do live differently here. We are weaving a different narrative for the world of how, instead of moving in the direction as we're seeing in many places in the world, including some close to home, where we're trying to polarize people based on their faith or their skin color or a bunch of other stuff, their sexual orientation, what have we done here? We've said no. We recognize people are going to be different. We're going to celebrate that. We're going to learn from that. We're going to strengthen ourselves from that. And they felt that the outward articulation of that by leaders, but also events that show that you'll have people standing together. This is one of the great strengths of Pride in Toronto, is that Pride isn't a million people who are all LGBTQ. I mean, there are many who are, but there are lots of other people who aren't, who are there to say, hey, we all live here together. You're fabulous fellow citizens. We're celebrating that you've had certain victories in your rights and certain other challenges that still lie in front of you, and so on and so on. It's a celebration. And so that was the underlying message that came from this, was, yes, make sure the law is applied and strengthened as much as it can be. Make sure we make a huge effort at education so people understand the importance of this and not letting our way of life get messed up by what's going on around the world. And thirdly, to make sure we have people see every day the strength that comes from diversity and the strength that comes from inclusion, as opposed to the downside of polarization that you're seeing happening elsewhere. And so I'm trying to be out front about that every single day, just about. And there are people who criticize me for that because they have a slightly different view. And if they don't like it, I guess they can vote me out at the next election. And I hope they won't, for a bunch of reasons. But I hope that's one of them, that we need to stay the course on our values. Our values are the ones that are admired around the world. And I think we are not perfect, but we're weaving a much different narrative than many other places.